So Steve McQueen, it's been 5 years since
Sure.
12 Years a Slave, and I wonder, this as a follow-up, it's really interesting in the context of the other films that you've made. What attracted you to this material?
Well, I was 13 years old and I saw this TV show called Widows, and it appeared on my TV screen in London as a young man, and I was just hooked to the screen with these four women who had to sort of overcome all the huge obstacles, and in that environment they were being judged on their appearance and deemed not capable. And I identified with those women very much as a child of being judged in the same way. And their adventure, their sort of roller coaster ride to sort of get to the end of this journey was gripping, and that was it really. So I was 13 and I held on to this for 35 years.
Yeah. You worked with Gillian Flynn on the script. Compressing this into a 2-hour feature film, can you talk a bit about that, but also about contemporizing it, making it your own?
Sure.
What was working on the script like?
Well, myself and Gillian, we did a lot of research. We started with the FBI headquarters in Chicago, talking to private investigators, church leaders, politicians, etc., all off record. It's wonderful. It was just interesting. It was like being a private detective in some ways, two private detectives, sort of comparing notes. And then afterwards, I mean, the whole idea of working with Gillian was kind of interesting because we were very, very different in our approaches. And what was interesting about that is that how we complemented each other. So you can't really see the join of some ways of what she did or what I did. It was kind of, but we're very, very different how we approach it, and very, very different on thinking of how we want to execute it. So that was extremely encouraging to think that you could work with someone. It's like a musician. You'd be bringing someone who, a virtuoso, sort of a guitarist or a violinist, and it somehow it sort of enhances what you want to do. So, and Gillian is incredible. And the reason why I wanted to place it in Chicago was because I wanted to place this movie in a heightened contemporary city, and I say that like that because what I wanted that city to be was to encapsulate what was going on all over the world in somehow. It's about the local, but at the same time it's about the global. And the geography of Chicago is so fascinating because everywhere it's kind of interesting how it's so condensed and how so many things are happening in that city as far as politics, corruption, economics, policing, religion. There's so many churches in Chicago, it's unbelievable. And also, I want to investigate, again, sort of gender. And it was very interesting in some ways that you can encapsulate all this stuff in a movie of 2 hours and a bit. The elements I took from the TV show was the main element. These four women, basically, dealing with the stuff that the husbands left behind after husbands had been sort of killed in an attempted heist, and then taking on the reins and trying to sort of finish their last job. So that's the essence of the stuff I took from the rest of the main series. It was very much about the sort of London underworld of the sort of late 70s, early 80s, which I wasn't so interested in. But taking this piece of narrative from the amazing Linda Plant TV show and dipping it into the current climate was what I wanted to do. I thought the base of that was Chicago.
You mentioned some of the things you explore in this movie, and it's interesting how, on the one hand, you fulfill genre expectations of the heist film, but you also explore issues of gender and race and economic disparity,
yes,
social class. Can you talk about finding those themes and putting them into a story that on the surface is very pulpy, very genre specific?
Sure. Well, a heist, or the heist movie as such, is a construct. And constructs are there to be broken. I mean, before there was a heist movie, there was something else that turned into a heist movie. Otherwise, we'd be making the same movie time and time and time again. And a lot of people say that in Hollywood they often do that. I didn't want to. So the whole idea of not putting blinkers on and taking them off and looking at our surroundings within the context of this caper was very important to me. And to use that as a catalyst to talk about so many other things where it was needed to happen, because like I said, in Chicago, as well as, again, as I said before, I would explore the world, it's all there. It's all there in this city.
And you find these really interesting visual ways to convey the themes of the movies. I mean, like the thing that just jumped right out at me was that shot of the car where you're following Colin Farrell's character from the district that he's running to represent, which is predominantly poor, predominantly African American, and you go into the neighborhood where he lives, which is upper class, predominantly white. And on the one hand, that shot is impressive just from a visual standpoint because of how complicated it is, but on the other hand, you pack so much about the themes of the film within that one shot. Can you talk a bit about your visual approach to the movie?
Well, again, I'm a person who I don't bring my strength onto a situation. I tend to, how can I say, have a relationship or have a conversation with the environment that the story is taking place in. So therefore, it could tell me what it wants and needs, or it tells me how it can be conveyed. So this particular scene was about, again, I'm a British filmmaker, so basically I have to stretch a pound. The whole idea of sort of, how do you do something with not a lot of money? In this case, I had a bit of money, but at the same time, you're always thinking of the most economical way of doing things. I never forgot, I never forget, Robbie Miller, a dear friend of mine, he died this year, said to me, a camera move should be as effortless as a cat jumping on a table. Because cats are very lazy animals, but they just do as much as they have to do. And that's what I want to do as far as the shot is concerned. So the layers of information and imagery on this one shot, in some ways, it's all about sort of, pushing the story, further at the same time as being economical with our time, so we get so much from that 3 and a bit minutes, and we'll load it. We just load it with all the information about about mulligans and so much other stuff, and chevron. Hopefully your viewers will sort of see what I'm talking about, but it's just so much in one shot.
And in ways too, I mean, the ways that you film the heists, both at the beginning and the end, just like, again, with the car, with the camera in there, and it's looking out the front window, the windshield, and then going out and looking at the back is what's going on. I mean, there's all these really interesting kinds of ways.
I'm happy you're sounding sort of a bit confused. Not because you are confused, because people know what you're talking about and they go see the picture. Right. But yeah, it's for me, it was very much about having a visual experience for the viewer, from going from 0 to 60 right at the beginning of the picture, and to bringing people in. I think it's one thing to observe a car. A car chase. There's another thing to be in it, and that's what I want to do. I wanted to bring the audience in it from the get-go.
You have an incredible cast in this movie. Obviously, Viola at the top, but I mean, you've got everybody from like Robert Duvall, who's got 50, 60 years worth of experience, to somebody like Cynthia Erivo.
This was the first film.
Yeah, and so I mean, talk a bit about assembling the cast and finding the right actresses to play the widows, and I mean all the people who are surrounding them as well.
Well, it was a very long process. I worked with my casting director, Francine Maisler, who was fantastic. Again, she brought the attention of Cynthia Erivo to me, who I went to see her in The Color Purple on Broadway. I apologize, this is modern life. And again, it was just one of those things where it was just very organic. I mean, I had so many stories on all these individuals and how I got to meet them. But through hearing about, for example, Elizabeth Debicki, she did a play called The Maids. Jean Genet played What I Love, and I thought that's interesting. And she was great in that. Viola, of course, was just again. I was talking about some other people about the role. And I met her, and I just thought she's an iceberg. She, you know, you see it, there's so much gravitas to her and what she conveys, and there's a well of depth. So again, it's all that I could talk about each individual person, how I came to them, but it was time consuming, but at the same time, it was all about getting it right.
Yeah. And it's also a very diverse cast as well. I mean, you were at some film festival, I forget which one, when you were making the rounds for this, and you know, seeing everybody up on stage in that photo, I mean, it really, you know, you see the diversity of this world that we live in. Was that a consideration of yours as well, to try to represent the world that we live in more broadly? And
I didn't have to try.
yeah,
You know, it's a given.
yeah,
When you cast this movie and you're talking about the stories I'm talking about, it's a given. So, you know, just I didn't have to flex my muscles doing that. But I was happy that people noticed that there's something wrong.
right, yeah. And it's interesting looking at this movie too in the context of the times that we live in with Me Too and Time's Up. Obviously, you were planning this movie before any of that happened, but I mean, can you talk a bit about having the film come out in the context of where we are right now with all that?
I mean, I'm grateful in a way to. I mean, look, in some ways, I say grateful, but at the same time, it's very bittersweet. Don't forget, I saw the original TV show within the plant 35 years ago. So the fact that nothing's changed in 35 years is kind of very, very sad. And the fact that now people now talking about it is yeah, it's a good thing. I'm very happy that this film's come out in this time, and if it in some ways can help, or some way people can talk about it within the context of the current times we live in, well then, you know, I'll be very happy with that.
Like I mentioned, I mean, this was 5 years since your last film, and everybody wanted to know what you were going to do next after that. Were you being particularly picky, or just did you need time to
No,
think
I
about
did an HBO show, which
yeah.
didn't work out. A part didn't work out, and I was doing museum shows, and I'm an artist, so I was doing museum shows and working on artworks and et cetera, sort of, you know, lots of things about life, and I knew that this would be my next film after 12 years. But it was just basically, I was kind of busy doing a lot of other stuff, and at the same time, I was very happy to sort of stop in a way. It was a bit of disappointment when the HBO didn't happen, but actually I've been working, I did 3 films in 5 years, and within that time, I did a lot of museum shows, and I couldn't continue on that sort of pace. So in some ways, I was very fortunate.
I did actually want to ask you about your background as a visual artist, because I mean, you know, that's such a big part of your life, as you said. How does one inform the other? I mean, how did that background as a visual artist inform your eventual move into filmmaking?
It wasn't a move. I've not moved anywhere. I've just done, again, it's like writing poetry and writing sort of a novel. They're two similar things, but at the same time different. One is poetry, one is more fractured, sort of condensed, and the novel is more the art, which is, I suppose you could think of that as a movie. So it's saying the same things, but in different ways.
You made history with your Oscar win. Tell us a little bit about that night. I remember it was a very exciting race just to follow, and you know, what did that mean for you when you won that Oscar?
What's great about that was, you know, I think that the movie changed a lot of things in industry. First of all, that the perception that you know, movies with black protagonists don't sell abroad, and I think 12 Years a Slave shattered that idea, and it allowed other films to be made, which wouldn't have got made, not if it wasn't because 12 years. So that's great, and the fact that was able to share it with my parents, with my mother and my sister. My father passed away, and that is huge. You know, to think of, you know, where we came from, and then we're sitting walking on the red carpet. So it had a huge sort of impact for sure, absolutely.
And also, I mean, that film, you know, it was something that dealt very frankly and very powerfully with a dark chapter in this country's history, and something that we're still dealing with
Sure.
a lot of those same issues today. So, to have a movie like that be embraced.
Well, yeah, and to have a story like that win Best Picture, to have a story like that sort of, make that much revenue, it just tells you how people are they're interested in interesting stories. And I've never lowered my sort of attention. I've never lowered my sort of want for telling, difficult stories or telling stories which have some kind of meaning, just like Widows. Because at the same time, it's one of those things, which it's about how we navigate our way through, this environment we live in now, which isn't particularly pleasant. How we somehow how we try and find refuge. And I think the thing about Widows is that we get these 4 protagonists, women who are from different races and different class backgrounds, who come together as one to sort of achieve this heist, to achieve this goal. And I think it's very indicative of America and why I love this country so much in a way, because you get all these people from all over the world who come here to sort of and basically make this sort of this world, and it's great. And I suppose what I'm trying to say in a very long abbreviated way is that it's about us forgetting our differences, coming together, realizing our differences, and taking power.
Well, every movie you've made so far has been something I've watched over and over and over again, so I look forward to watching this one over and over and over again.
Well, thank you so much.
Finding those little subtleties in the visuals and the storytelling and all that. So, thank you so much for your time.
Very kind, thank you.